Welcome to the Just My Mom Sense podcast. I'm not an expert, I'm just trying to figure out parenting, and in turn myself, while sharing things I've learned with all of you. Welcome, Joann, to the Just My Mom Sense podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Sure. Thank you for being here. We've just been
Sure.
giggling right before this, so I'll
Yes.
get my giggles out of the way.
Yes.
So for those of you that are listening and may not know Joann, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I started this journey, I guess it was 2018. I started as a blogger. I had
Mhm.
my own blog. And then somewhere around, I think 2020, 21, I started a YouTube channel. Last year, I shut my blog down because I decided that I wanted to work on writing my first book,
Yeah.
which has been a challenge. So I'm really just, doing YouTube and the social media stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Is it proving to be a good challenge, the book?
I don't know. I think, I thought I really thought that, I had the idea in my head. It was something that my mom and I had talked about. My mom passed away. And, you know, I knew where I wanted to go with it, but when I came down to actually sitting down to writing it, I
Yeah.
didn't realize some of the details that I am kind of missing,
Yeah.
trying, and then at one point I started out really good. I'm still going, but it's slower because I'm honestly not sure how I want to end it.
Mhm.
So I'm trying to like kind of back into it now
Yeah.
and see what direction to go in.
Yeah.
But it's harder than I thought it was. I
Yeah.
thought it would be easy, but it's not.
I mean, it's a big thing to take on, but it's awesome that you've done it and you're in the process, even if it takes a little longer than you thought.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
great.
I think that was the second mistake was I set a goal for myself to have it done by the time I turned 60, which is in 1 year from now. And I don't think that's realistic.
Yeah.
Not as somebody who's still, I'm working,
Yeah.
doing YouTube. I have two kids. I have a husband. I have a house. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, that's not going to work, Joann. So it was unrealistic, but I'll keep going. I mean, whenever
Maybe
it's
by your
done,
61st.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Amazing. But and regardless, you're doing it. So
Thank you.
that's what
Yeah, I'm
counts. Yeah.
trying.
Yeah. Um, Speaking of your mom, and I know this story, but on social media, you are Love Always Joann. Can you
Yes.
tell us what inspired the name?
Love Always Joann was my blog name, and
Mhm.
that came from my mom. The way she would always sign her cards was always Love Always Mom.
Yeah.
And when I started my blog, I did it as a way to kind of honor her wish for me to write a, actually, she wanted me to write a memoir because every year for Christmas, she gave me a new journal.
Hmm.
And I have many, many journals from probably, I think I was about 6 or 7.
Hmm.
Some of the younger ones are like, see spot run, but it's as I got older and I continued writing them, she kept saying, I think you should write your memoir. And I knew that I definitely didn't have the time to dedicate to something like that. So I decided to start the blog, and I was sharing some of the stories from my journal
Yeah.
with on that. So that's where the name came from. It was from her.
Yeah, I love that.
Thank
Um,
you.
did you, while you were growing up and journaling, did you also venture off into maybe poems or creative writing as well, or were you
You know,
mostly in your
I
journals?
I didn't. I would say that I definitely had a creative side as like arts and crafts type of
Hmm.
things, but definitely not poems. I don't
Yeah.
think, yeah, that I just never explored. I don't know if I would be good at something like writing poems.
Yeah.
Because even when I tend to write, it's usually on and on and on. I ramble.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, the poem would be forever.
Yeah.
It would never stop. So,
Yeah. Yeah. But you're a storyteller, so that's what the journals are full of, which is great that you
yeah,
have all of that to look back on.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
And now I don't do it as often as I did, but I did I found a app the beginning of this year called Day One.
Okay.
And it's just on, on your phone, and you just can enter what you want. I don't do it every day, but I have been keeping up with it since January, every other day, or just something that I want to remember, and doing it that way, because that's it's another thing to add on to.
Yeah.
So I try trying to keep up doing it, but in a smaller way.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like there's been more apps that have come out for
Oh
journaling
yeah.
where it's just like a prompt or the writing challenges or what it
Right,
might be.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do, I use the notes on the notes app
Yeah.
as well, but
Hmm.
I like that this was like kind of dedicated just for that. So,
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Well, you are also a mom and you are a mom to twin boys.
yes.
So, first, I think I want to know, what was it like finding out you were having twins?
Well, I was having a very hard time getting pregnant.
Mhm.
So we did go through using IVF.
Yeah. Hmm.
And when we were going, it was I kind of knew it was going to be our last attempt at it. I
Hmm.
just kind of figured, this was going to be it. I don't know. I had a feeling it would work.
Yeah.
And when the doctor's office called to tell me,
Hmm.
I was like, "Oh, I just knew it." But I
Yeah.
never thought I was going to have twins
Hmm. Yeah.
until every couple days they would call me back and let me know how it was progressing,
Hmm.
how the embryo was progressing at that point. When the beta numbers started to get a lot higher and higher,
Hmm.
I was like, "Oh, it is definitely twins.
Yeah.
This, this has to be, because it's just not normal."
Yeah.
And then when we went for our first ultrasound,
Yeah.
yeah, I was like, "Oh my God, it really is two babies in there." It's like
Oh my
we
goodness.
were shocked. And then, the funny thing is, I always imagined I was having girls.
Oh, funny.
I never even thought about having boys. That was like
Yeah.
not even anything. And when we went to see what the sex of the babies was,
Yeah.
and she was like, "Okay, you ready?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm ready." I had all my girl names picked out, everything in my head.
Yeah.
Disney princesses. Yeah, go, 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 go. Tell me. She said, "Okay, baby A is a boy." And I was like, "What?" I remember going, I said, "Are you sure?" I'm like, "It's supposed to be a girl."
Can you check that again?
Yeah. And she's like, and my husband's laughing. He's like, "It's a boy, you know." I'm
Uh-huh.
like, "Okay." I'm like, "All right, definitely the second one's gonna be a girl." And she
Yeah.
goes, "And baby B is a boy too." And I was like, wow. I was like, wait, and all I can think of is, wait till I tell my mother,
Yeah.
because we were like girls,
Yeah.
and it took me a while to get used to the fact that I was going to be a mom to two boys.
Yeah.
Coming from a family of mostly cousins, my sister,
Yeah.
everybody was girls. We didn't have that many boys in the family.
Yeah. Oh
So
my
I was
God.
like, I am completely lost here.
Now I'm gonna have two
You
at one
know,
time.
yeah. Um, but it's all good. You
Yeah.
know, thank God, everything went well, and they're doing great. So, you
And
know,
they're about to turn, I mean, as we record this, they are days away. Did we specify them?
yes.
Are they days away from
Um,
turning 13?
coming up on
Yeah.
Memorial Day this year, May
Oh,
26th. They were born on Memorial weekend,
okay.
but their birthday actually falls on Memorial Day this week, and they're going to be 13,
Oh my goodness. Okay. How
which
are you
is
feeling? How are we feeling on the cusp of the teen
I
years?
have been all over this week. Really, like
Yeah.
I I kind of can't believe it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I can't believe that, I think it's also a combination of my son Michael having autism.
Mhm.
And I have been in this place this past week. I don't know what it is, but
Mhm.
it's just like I've been in this place where I see Alex and he's getting, to become a young man and,
Yeah.
and his, personality and it's not that I don't see that in Michael, it's just a different
Yeah.
and trying to kind of I don't want to say I don't accept the differences, but
Yeah.
it's just um with this age, I think, it's just for me, it's hitting harder. I don't know really
Yeah.
why.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I've been feeling everything this week.
Yeah. All the feels. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I get that. And it is like such kind of a pivotal time where you can see the changes and maybe in their individual selves as well. Yeah, I can
Yeah. And it obviously wasn't what we expected or envisioned, the whole time, you know, uh, being pregnant and then, up until Michael's diagnosis, I was, like, well, at least, I was thinking they're boys, they'll have each other and they'll
Mhm.
be friends, they'll be able to play with, and it didn't turn out that way,
Mhm.
So I think, sometimes it really bothers me,
Yeah, yeah, no,
and sometimes, I try very hard
yeah,
to be more positive and more
yeah,
focused on other things other
yeah.
than, but
Mhm.
you
You're
know,
gonna have those days.
yeah, it
Days are gonna
happens.
hit.
I
Yeah.
mean,
How, I mean, especially at this point, right before they turn official teenagers, how are you able to support their individuality?
well, I can say like especially when it comes to celebrating their birthday,
Mhm.
you know, even down to gifts are completely different.
Yeah.
Alex is into gaming, into sports,
Mhm.
karate, just different,
Yeah.
completely different. Whereas Michael's, his, he's not at a 13-year-old level.
Mhm. Yeah.
So he's watching, his tablet and he's still in a cartoon sometimes, different, just completely different things. So
Yeah.
when people are, family members, friends are asking for birthday gift recommendations, it's always really hard for me to, say, well,
Yeah.
I just now say concentrate on giving them experiences or,
Hmm.
gift cards,
Yeah.
and we'll use, especially for Michael, when things come up, we need, you know, we'll use the gift cards, something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But for me, y- you know, even down to having a birthday party.
Yeah.
We've
Hmm.
always had birthday parties together for them. And Alex has always been, like he goes along with it, but you
Yeah.
can tell, last year we had him together. We just had him in the yard
Hmm.
and he invited his friends. And his biggest concern was what his friends were going to think about Michael, or
Hmm.
if Michael was going to have a meltdown, or if, and me and my husband completely understood that.
Yeah.
But um, he was fine, it turned out okay, and yes, they kind of looked at him, and we tried to explain it. And I said, this is your opportunity to
Yeah.
explain that's my brother. He has autism. He can't
Hmm.
talk.
Yeah.
Sometimes he does this or that. And, it gives them an opportunity to experience what autism is. I said, and I said, it's a good thing. I said,
Yeah.
because you're helping future generations
Yeah.
learn
Yeah.
more about autism. So we try to, we try to make it as fair as possible.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just not,
Oh, of course.
and
Yeah.
but Alex is pretty good, you know, with his brother. I can't, there are times, they're just like typical,
Yeah.
you know, and but for the most part, Michael and Alex are, you know, civil to each other when they can
Yeah.
be.
Right, right. And again, I feel like the age plays such a factor, especially for Alex and thinking about his friends, because it's such a time to be thinking about what do your friends think, or what are these kids going to say,
Right,
or what someone
right,
might say at school. I mean, my son is in fifth grade, and I'll I'll try to be like, what's going on in the cafeteria? What are kids talking about? What are they
right,
saying?
right. Yeah,
What words are kids using? What's going on? I try to stay in it for as long as I can.
I know.
And sometimes he'll say like these things that the words kids are using, or kids that are what certain kids are saying about other kids, or using words in a negative way that are not negative, or just whatever it is.
Right,
I'm always like, that's not okay though. And he knows it, but it's also this hard thing of like, yeah, but this kid from my class is saying this. Is that, but I know that that's not right. What do I
right,
do?
right.
And
Yeah,
it's such a hard time to navigate overall. So, um, but it does open the door for more conversation and for more normalcy and acceptance, and
right. Exactly.
which is great.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what we try to teach him, and
Hmm.
try to, kind of guide him. And we know it's not easy. We often say Alex is almost really just like an only child,
Yeah.
but
Hmm.
even like as he was growing up, just trying to get social skills. It was
Hmm.
harder for Alex because he didn't have another brother to really bounce those ideas off. At that
Yeah.
time, there was no kids in the neighborhood, so
Mhm.
it was hard.
Yeah.
But we got him in a good preschool daycare program, and
Yeah.
that seemed to help a little bit. And then, as he got older, more kids moved into the neighborhood. So, and
Yeah.
they know about Michael, they're more accepting of Michael, and it's easier in that way. But
Yeah.
I wouldn't say, there's a lot of times that I just have to say, Alex, I'm sorry. This is,
Yeah.
unfortunately, this is,
Mhm.
what God gave us, and we're gonna,
Yeah.
do our best to get and work through it. And this is our lives.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know that it's something that is I see it talked about sometimes, but probably not often enough, is siblings of other kids that may have neurodiversity, may have a
Right,
different disability,
right,
how that affects them as well. And because it's not like, oh, well, too bad for you. It's going
right,
to
right. I
affect.
wish that there was more support for
Yeah.
siblings. I
Mhm.
think, they definitely could benefit from being in a group of other siblings that know exactly what they're feeling and what they're experiencing.
Yeah.
um, a couple years ago I had found a organization that did that. They didn't have
Mhm.
enough interest to keep it going,
Yeah.
and I was so sad. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I was like,
Yeah.
just keep trying,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and the director said, I've reached out to other schools, tried to get, it just wasn't working. So
Yeah.
definitely something that's needed, I think.
For sure. Maybe over
Yeah.
time that will happen.
Yeah.
But you, on your YouTube channel, one of the things you focus on is you all as an autism family, and you advocate for it and share videos and share your knowledge and your own experiences. Can you tell us how that journey began for all of you?
So I would say probably he was hitting all the milestones, and I
Mhm.
think it was probably about 2 or 3 months after his first birthday.
Mhm.
He just started really having, it seemed like a hard time, just crying, constantly crying. Definitely all of a sudden it was toe walking,
Mhm.
um, a lot of like pacing back and forth. And I knew something was up.
Yeah.
Something didn't seem right.
Yeah.
He had developed, a few words, and then all of a sudden they were not
Hmm.
present anymore. And, I did speak to his pediatrician, and she said to me, well, what are you thinking? She says, are you thinking autism? And I said, yes, I do. I think autism. And she goes, I don't think so.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
was like, she goes, you're looking at Alex, you're comparing to Alex and where he's at, and every child is different. And I was like, yeah, I hear you on that. I was like, but no, something
Hmm.
doesn't seem right to me. So she goes, well, do you want to have them evaluated? And at that point, I said, yes, let's evaluate both of them.
Yeah. Hmm.
And I figured, might as well do Alex as well. I didn't know, and that's what we did. We had them evaluated in October
Hmm.
of, I think it was 2013.
Okay.
And it took a while. It took a
Yeah.
while for them to get the report back. And then, you know, the report came back showing that Michael was very behind,
Hmm.
which I was like, really? I was like, really that? I was like kind of taken back by that,
Hmm.
and I was like, okay, I knew that we were having some kind of behavioral issues, but I didn't
Hmm.
realize that he should be I just didn't know.
Right. Yeah. Hmm.
And during this whole time, my mom was diagnosed with cancer,
Yeah.
and it was towards the end of her life. So
Mm.
it was, my mind was everywhere.
Yeah. A lot happening at once.
I just, so we started early intervention.
Hmm.
And then about a month into it, the home therapist said to me, do you mind if I bring in a behaviorist just to observe Michael?
Hmm.
And I was like, sure,
Yeah.
And he suggested we go to a neurologist.
Hmm.
Uh, and that's what we did. And we brought him in, and she diagnosed him. And that was February 2014. So I want to say maybe about 20 months,
Okay.
22
Okay.
months. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't know, you would know better than I would. I feel that even 10 years ago, I feel like things have changed so much since then, where it was still probably tough, even as you're at the pediatrician, to be like,
I
no,
cried the
no.
entire way home.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
cried the entire way home. I think it was it was a combination of things. It was my mom. My mom had passed away 2 months before that. The doctor herself
Mhm.
was awful.
Yeah.
I mean, she was not, we didn't stay with her because I just
Yeah.
couldn't. She was very blunt and very
Mhm.
like, yeah, he has autism. Hopefully he'll grow out of it. That's how she
Right.
said it to me.
Okay.
And I was
Hmm.
like, grow out of it. I've never heard of anybody growing out of
One thing
autism. Like,
after. Mhm.
I was familiar with it.
Yeah.
I have had friends who
Hmm.
had siblings with, but I never heard anybody say grow out of it. And,
I'm a doctor. Like what?
yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I just, I just really didn't know where to start.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was like, now what,
Right.
when we
So
got
where
back,
do you start when, I mean, that's all you get all of that information at such a crazy time overall. How
yeah.
how and where do you start?
I mean, she had like thrown prescriptions at us. Okay, he's going to need speech therapy. He's going to need early intervention, ABA therapy, OT, and this and that. And she was just handing them, just call online, look, and she was kind of very like it was nothing.
Right.
I was like, you just told me my child has autism
Yeah.
and you're not being helpful.
Yeah.
You do this every day, maybe 20 times a day, but,
Yeah.
I think I don't know. I just
Yeah.
really didn't care for her,
And I get it.
and
Yeah.
really what did it was we went back maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 months for a follow-up.
Hmm.
And she was very rude. I mean, she came in, she looked at Michael, she was talking and asking him questions like he was going to answer. And she said to me, my husband, what have you have been doing? He's the
Oh,
same as he was 3 months ago. And I was like, oh, my husband is going to kill her.
right.
I was like, he's going to,
Uh-huh.
and he kind of, went right back at her, but I was like, that's it. We're done.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
are done. We had to find another one because
Yeah.
yeah,
As
she
if it's
was,
not stressful enough, you don't need that. You don't.
no, no.
No.
I mean, and luckily the therapist that we had from early intervention, she was wonderful. She was a special needs teacher.
Yeah.
She walked us through everything, what we needed to do, how, and we started the therapy, as soon as we had that
Hmm.
diagnosis, we started everything we could. I've been
Yeah.
going since then.
Yeah. Good.
So,
Oh. Well, and it's so helpful to just find someone that can be in your corner and be like,
yes.
please just tell
And
me
she
all the
really was. She,
yeah.
her and the whole agency, I have to say, we still use them to today. They've been great for us.
Yeah.
I have no complaints at all.
Yeah. That's good.
Most our BCBA has been with us,
Hmm.
our home BCBA, since Michael aged out of early intervention.
Hmm.
And well, and our therapists too have been with us for years.
Yeah.
So
Good. Good.
we've been lucky in that way.
Yeah. And then I know you've been kind of on a journey in terms of schooling for Michael as well. I feel like it was how long
Yeah,
has it been since because you switched schools probably in,
we did about,
right?
I guess it must be about 3 years now. He
Okay.
was going to the public school
Hmm.
system,
Yeah.
and at that time, I didn't really have a lot of um, knowledge about the differences between sending them to a school for autism or special needs
Hmm.
versus the public school. Growing up in public school, I thought, "Oh, okay, it's
Yeah.
good. They
Yeah.
got it, And as the years went by, and IEP meetings happened, and things were not going well,
Hmm.
just trying to get him a one-to-one,
Yeah.
they were refusing.
Oh my God.
Didn't feel he needed it. Didn't want him to lean on it,
Yeah.
become dependent on it.
Yeah.
He needs it,
Yeah.
he does
Yeah.
need it, and we've had doctors, and just wasn't going our way.
Okay.
And then Michael really got to have a really, really tough time,
Yeah.
and they couldn't handle him.
Mm. Hmm.
Couldn't handle him anymore. And the case manager called me, and she says, I hate to tell you this, but I think we're going to have to place Michael outside the district.
Mm.
And she's like, I don't know how you feel about that. I'm like, oh, that's really sad. And then the inside, I'm like, yes, thank
Yeah.
God. I'm like, yeah,
Give me away.
I was like, I didn't want him to get to that point, to have that happen, but
Yeah. But also you could see that
perfect. You know, uh,
they weren't
it
supporting
wasn't,
him.
no.
Oh,
And now
mhm.
he's in a fantastic school,
Good, good.
and doing very, very well,
Yeah, good,
much
good.
better. And, you see the difference in him.
Yeah, that's
And
great.
that's the best part. So,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, those IAP meetings are so intimidating. They're so
yes.
intimidating. And it's a bunch of people sitting in a room talking about your child and
Hmm.
trying to figure out what's best for your kid. And you're like, can I? Could I
Right.
maybe?
Do I have a say in
Right. Yeah.
anything,
Yeah.
And that, eh, I mean, we've even had our therapist and our home BCBA come with us,
Hmm.
trying to, it's really, you're negotiating. It,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, that's really what it is. You're negotiating for the right services and education for your child. It doesn't always go well, not the way that you want it to,
Yeah.
but um,
I feel like there's too many of those stories too, where that's pretty common that it
yeah,
doesn't go.
I think so. Yes.
That's
Yeah,
great. Well, I'm glad that he's in a better school and doing so well, and that
he
you're even able
is.
to see that change and difference.
Yes.
And has there been a change for Alex since they're in different schools now?
Well, we took Alex with us when we toured the school,
Hmm.
and Alex is like, he was amazed at the school, and he was like, "Why can't I come here?" We're like, "I'm sorry, buddy,
Yeah.
but you can't."
Yeah.
But he always we they have a lot of family involvement, so
Hmm.
they do like a family night,
Yeah.
and Alex gets to come with us and hang out. He,
Yeah.
can play basketball with some of the teachers. He has a great time,
Mhm.
pizza, and then
Yeah.
it gives the parents an opportunity. They have a support group for the parents. So while they're all playing and have activities, the
Yeah.
parents can benefit from
Yeah.
being a parent of a
Mhm.
child there. So he definitely knows that. he's in a better school. He knows,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's great.
yeah,
That's awesome. And it's great to have the family community within the school as well.
definitely,
Yeah.
definitely that, and it's helpful because some of them, are ahead of their children are ahead of you,
Yeah.
ahead of, your child, and they can give you their experiences or what
Mhm.
works for them or what didn't work.
Yeah.
And it's just a better environment
Yeah.
all the way around. So
Yeah.
I'm very happy he's there. And
Yeah. That's great.
yeah,
What do you think are misconceptions that you wish people understood better when it comes to autism?
well, for Michael, he's nonverbal,
Yeah.
but he
Hmm.
understands everything you're saying.
Yeah.
That's one thing, it's like, uh, don't talk like he's not in the room.
Right.
Because, yeah, there are definitely some instances where he is not focusing and he is
Mhm.
not understanding what you're saying.
Yeah.
But for the most part, he knows.
Yeah.
And when he starts giggling in the back, you know that he's listening. You
Yeah.
know, that I think is one that they
Yeah.
think he's just he can understand, he just cannot get the words out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that
Yeah.
I think, people, don't understand that.
Yeah.
And but he looks normal.
Yeah. Yeah. Do any of
Right? Yeah,
us?
I'm like, okay, well, I don't know if that's a compliment or not, but yeah, thank you. Well, I think it's the comments too. I think people are generally trying to be helpful
Yeah.
and also don't know what to say. And
Yeah.
it's okay to ask questions. I think that's, I always say, ask me, don't
Yeah.
stare. Ask me. Do
Yeah.
you, do you
Yeah.
want to know something? I'm more than happy to share it with you. This is what it's like,
Yeah.
and this is what happens, and even with Alex, I said, that's your opportunity to share too.
Yeah, for sure.
I think more people are aware of autism.
Hmm.
I think that they're not quite as educated.
For sure.
And that's hopefully something that I hope that I do, whether it's through social media or YouTube. I just,
Yeah.
hopefully I'm getting something across.
So one of I think the way that we have found each other is because of our mutual love for Disney and the Disney
Absolutely. Oh,
community.
yes.
And I
Yes,
was just
yes.
saying before we started recording that I feel like you know everyone and you are so supportive of everybody and
I
you're
try.
always
Thank you.
commenting and sharing or mentioning other people in your videos or whatever you're doing, which I love. And
Thank
I
you.
also see all of the things you put up on YouTube. You're doing, house organization and cooking videos, and that kind of ties into Disney as well. And
Right.
it's a great YouTube channel, and you are a great
Thank you.
person to interact with on social media because
Thank you.
you're sharing so many different things that are fun, important, helpful. It kind of covers all the bases.
I hope so. I try, I try. I certainly have a lot of different areas of interest,
Yeah.
and sometimes it could be a little overwhelming trying to
Yeah.
say, okay, am I focusing on grief today? Am I focusing
Right.
on autism,
Yeah.
on lung cancer awareness?
Mhm.
All of that.
Yeah.
And let's not forget Disney,
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
because Disney makes everything better. And that's how I
Right.
always say,
Exactly.
you
Yeah.
know,
Hmm.
but I try. I try to keep up with everybody. I want to support everybody. It's not always possible, but I try to make my rounds.
Yeah. You're I admire how great you are at it. I'm always like, I
Thank
gotta
you.
do more. Look at Joanne, she's everywhere. I gotta do more. Where does your love of Disney come from?
Probably my parents.
Hmm.
I just remember before even visiting the parks, watching the Disney movie every Sunday,
Hmm. Yeah.
just sitting down, having pizza, watching those movies. That
Yeah.
definitely came from them. And
Yeah.
then we did not get to Disney World until the first trip was 1980. I was
Okay.
14. And then after that, that was it for me.
That was it.
I was like, yeah, I'm never leaving here.
Yeah.
Um,
Visited it.
yeah, it's been, and there was a while there that I wasn't able to get,
Hmm.
like I think it was 2000 was my last trip, and then I didn't go again to 2019.
Okay. Yeah.
Just life,
Sure.
and but once I got back, I was like, no, I'm not doing this again,
Yeah.
waiting years and years and
That
years.
was too long.
I'm like, no way.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
Um, but I
yeah.
love
And I
Disney,
feel like, and do you think we're both in the Northeast? Do you think there is something to that where the group of us up here that like love going down there so much?
I
Maybe there's something
I
about that.
think there is. I think it's something like it's also like the magic of going to Florida on vacation.
Hmm.
For us up here with the snow in the winter,
Yeah.
it's awful.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, I want a beach, I want the sun and the
Yeah.
heat, until you get the heat. But
Yeah. You're like, it's
but
too hot.
that's, I think for a lot of us in this area, definitely, Florida's our vacation place,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Hmm.
and it just happens to have Disney World, and
Yeah.
lucky us.
Yeah. Extra perk. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite? Maybe we'll do a favorite Disney memory prior to 2000 and then a favorite Disney memory post 2019.
Okay. On the first trip that we went to, at that time, for some reason, the characters were out. That's
Yeah.
all I remember is like it wasn't like today where you got to get online and
Yeah.
everything else.
Yeah.
But Mickey Mouse came out.
Mhm.
And I remember my dad saying to me, Joanne, Mickey Mouse. And I was like, where? Where is he? And when we finally found him, I was like, um, let's take a picture with Mickey
Yeah.
Mouse. And my sister and my mom were like, yeah, Dan. So my dad said, come on, let's do it.
Yeah.
I have that picture and I've posted it. That was our first picture with Mickey Mouse ever. And I love that I have that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that he wanted to do it with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but definitely, I will always remember that. That and him arguing with me online for the Haunted Mansion. I did not want to go. I thought it was an actual,
Sure.
yeah, I
Cool.
thought it was going to be like gruesome people pulling at you and him yelling at me saying, he told me to turn around and look behind you. So I'm like looking behind me. He's like, there are little kids in this line. He's like, if they can get on it, so can you. And
No.
I was
Oh.
like, I don't think so. And he's like, you're getting on it. And honestly, that's one of my favorite rides.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, I always love it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. All right. Fine. You
definitely.
won that one.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, so it wasn't scary. All right, fine. But I
Whatever.
just remember him yelling at me and
Yeah.
yelling like yelling like where people were looking. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, now I feel worse. All right, thanks,
Okay.
Dad. And he's like,
Thanks.
there's little kids behind you. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, okay, we'll get on it.
In 1980, that makes sense. That's when, yeah,
Yeah,
you
so that definitely those memories.
yeah,
And in 2019, we took the boys for the first time.
yeah.
And my husband had been there, but he honestly said, I didn't enjoy it. And I was like,
Mm.
I'm
Oh,
not doing it right. I don't know
no.
what is wrong with you. And it turned out that he went at a teenage. And I was like, well, maybe that had something to do with it. I said,
Yeah.
but I think you're going to enjoy it now. And he had the best time. And I
Oh,
think for me, my favorite memory is the very first park we went to was Animal Kingdom, which I didn't expect, especially Alex to really be into the character meets,
mhm.
but he had that autograph book and he was running after them
Yeah.
and the pictures and just that whole day, that whole first day,
Yeah.
um, was really just magical to me,
Yeah.
and I think, that definitely something, that me and my husband both talk about is just how much he wanted those pictures and the autographs and talking
Yeah.
to them. Like, I just wasn't expecting that. I mean, I don't know why he was 7,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I just wasn't.
Yeah.
So I will always remember that their very first day. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's similar to your first favorite memory where seeing the character
Yeah,
brings out the magic, and you
that's
go,
true.
oh
I
my
didn't even
God,
think
where am
about
I?
that.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah,
so
definitely.
to then see that with your own kid is amazing, and it
Yeah.
makes it all more
Yeah.
magical. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Even
where are some
Michael.
of
Michael
yeah.
was very at Hollywood Studios, I think it was the
Oh,
vampire.
oh my gosh,
Ah,
Vampirina.
Vampirina. At that time, he loved Vampirina.
Yeah.
And when he saw her, he was like actually really like looking at her,
Mhm.
smiling, trying to touch her.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I was so happy. I was like, oh, thank, because I did not know what to expect taking Michael,
Yeah.
but it was, and to this day, every
Mhm.
trip that we've been,
Yeah.
no problems,
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
Absolutely enjoys it,
Yeah.
loves it.
Hmm.
So
It's that
I'm
pixie
happy.
dust.
Yeah,
It affects everyone.
it does. Yeah.
Creates those magical experiences. Yeah.
Yes,
And then
definitely.
what made you decide, I want to make a lot of this amazing, delicious Disney food at home? And I think I'll put that on my YouTube channel too.
Because what was happening was as I was preparing for to go to Disney, it was a family trip. So there was 16 of us in the
Yeah.
rental house. And I was writing about it on my blog.
Uh-huh.
And I was, every month featuring like a different goal that I had for Hollywood Studios, for Magic Kingdom, and just all that stuff. And then when I got back, I wrote all about our trip. And then
Yeah.
I was like, I have nothing now. I
Yeah.
was like, and I dedicated majority of my blog to Disney. I was like, what am I going to do? It's like, I think I'm going to start making Disney recipes on YouTube,
Mhm. Yeah.
which was not in, something that, I would ever think that I would do because I just wasn't sure, and I was like, oh, let me try it.
Mhm.
And, it really took off in the beginning. And I was like, okay, I think people really do want to watch this.
Yeah.
And it really started from there. And
Yeah.
I haven't been doing any of that. I haven't been doing the Disney recipes anymore, but I do share when we go to Disney, I
Yeah.
do share those little highlights from those trips.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. What do you think that you hope all of your content does for anyone watching or interacting with you on social media? What do you hope that people take away from all of it?
I think for me, the most important thing is to know that as an autism family, that we're just like everybody else.
Yeah.
You know,
Hmm.
I mean, a typical, neurotypical families have problems and issues as well. We're no different, and I just feel like sometimes there's like autism families and then everybody else.
Hmm.
And, I I hope that people can learn how to come together with
Yeah.
us because we would love to be able to share our lives,
Yeah.
just like when you're on social media and you're seeing everyone at Disney World, it's also yes, my kids have autism but they enjoy it too. Just sharing that, I know it's sometimes it's not relatable in certain ways. Sensory issues are not, even when Michael was first diagnosed, how to handle his sensory issues, it's odd. Some of the stuff was odd. And I
Yeah.
know, when, if you're out and you see somebody brushing somebody, it's not a normal thing to see. And you're like, what is going, those kinds of things, I hope that are more normalized and, accepted. And I don't know, it's just sharing that part of your life, I think is important just so everybody feels more comfortable, learns about it, and it's just like normal.
Yeah, as it should be. I think you just need to keep sharing and keep doing
Thank you.
YouTube, keep going with it, keep going with your book because we all want to read it. And
Thank you.
we will wait for as long as you need. That
I
no
appreciate
pressure.
that. It might be a while.
No pressure. We will be here when it's ready.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Where can everyone find you online because they need to if they don't follow you already?
I am on YouTube. I'm just my name, Joann Salas. On Instagram, it's Love Always Joann. On X, it's the same, Love Always Joann.
Mhm.
Facebook, yes, Love Always Joann. The only place I think is my name is just YouTube.
Okay.
YouTube, yeah. I think
Yeah.
everything else is I kept as Love Always Joann.
Perfect. And everyone, if you are not following or subscribed or whatever, you need to do that. So go do that. Um,
Thank
but
you.
thank you for coming on and sharing your
Thank you
stories.
for
And hopefully
having
we can
me.
do it again soon.
Sure, I'd love that.
Okay. Thank you for listening to the Just My Mom Sense podcast. You can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Just My Mom Sense or visit justmymomsense.com for past vlogs and a few of my favorite things. Music produced by Matt Harvey.